Well, here it is, the furniture piece that finally broke me. And I say, and I mean this, never again. Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Sab's Rehabs, where I take old, outdated, and in this case, disgusting furniture, give it a whole new look and a second chance at life. This is a sweet little French Provincial dresser that someone had one point covered in crackle paint, and my client wanted to try to strip it herself and have me paint it, but as you can see, that didn't quite go so well. This piece was rough, and when I say it broke me, it broke me. Now, I first started by basically taking it apart and assessing everything, so I have a list, a plan of action to go by, everything that I need to do to even get this remotely close to being back in shape enough to paint. This piece was brought to me soaking wet and smelling like stripper still, so I decided I probably needed to put some gloves on to do all this. You can see that the previous painter painted the sides of the drawers, and when I took this bottom drawer out, it had some kind of DIY repair. I think that's flooring. I had never seen that before. Now, obviously, first thing, usually I clean, but there's so much of this paint stuck on it still. So I'm going right with a stripper and putting on a thick coat of that. Let it set for about 15 minutes and then come back with a scraper and scrape it off. So my client is a friend of mine, and I believe she went through 2 rounds of using stripper, and that's all that she could get off before she quit and was like, I will pay you extra to strip this and then paint it. Now, so this will be round 3 of stripper, and in some spots it's doing good. Other spots it just still didn't do so well. The previous painter painted this piece with crackle paint, and that stuff is so durable. And the thing about the crackle effect paint is that you have to get it all off, or when you go to put your new paint on, that will crackle. So I spent a lot of time and money trying to strip this, and it didn't work. And then I went to go buy more stripper because I was like, okay, we got to do round 4. Round 3 didn't get everything. The cost of stripper is ridiculously expensive, so I decided that that wasn't the route that I was going to go. I cleaned up the stripper residue and decided that I wanted to go ahead and continue to remove more of this gunked up leftover paint by using a scraper. I have a couple different carbide scrapers and a set that has different tips, and I went through and I scraped and I scraped and I scraped, and I can promise you I used every single carbide scraper and every single different tip that I had to work on getting this paint and primer and crackle effect and top coat off of this thing in all the little nooks and crannies. I think the crackle stuff was designed to be there until the end of time because that stuff was so hard to scrape off. And this is the point, where I thought that this was going to break me. I actually contemplated giving up doing furniture because, just wow, it took me 3 weeks of scraping and sanding to get every last drop of the old paint, primer, and crackle off of this piece. Obviously, that's not 3 weeks continuously working on scraping. It was just spread out over 3 weeks here and there when I had the energy and mental capacity to handle scraping and sanding this dresser even more. I'm glad that I didn't give up on it though, and finally, after breaking up all that I had to do to get it paint ready condition, I finally got it there and could see the potential of how beautiful this piece could be. Now, after all that sanding, of course, you have to wipe all that sanding dust away. And I went ahead and took the opportunity to clean the inside of the dresser and the drawers as well. After that, I put all the drawers back into place, and when I got them all in is when you can really start to see how beautiful this piece once was. Now you can't see it, but there are lots of chips in the veneers and damage to the body, so I was only able to save the top to return it back to that stain wood look. I used dark walnut in a gel stain, and I used an old t-shirt piece in circular motions to work this stain into all the grain, and then let that set for just a couple minutes. Come back with a cloth and wipe up any excess remaining stain, and I make sure to wipe with a direction that the grain flows. A cold front came through in Oklahoma, so I moved this piece inside to continue working on it. So I'll be rolling and painting by hand. To make sure no fuzzies come off in the product, I wrap paint around my microfiber roller and pull off all the fuzzies first. I am using clear top coat here in a satin finish, and I just roll on 2 coats. So I kind of work in a section and get it on there, and then go back the opposite direction, very lightly gliding the roller over it. This helps diminish any roller marks. You can't tell what method this product was applied by. Now, since the bottom drawer had that weird flooring type repair done on the sides, I thought that it would be best to go ahead and just paint the sides again, but do something that matches the new look of the dresser better than this. And plus, some of this paint was damaged because I don't think it was ever sealed or primed. So I'm using Kiehl's Gray Primer, and I roll on 2 coats of that. And then I custom mixed this orangey red color. It's a little bit, I would say more red with a hint of orange in it. And I roll on a couple coats of that. I forgot to record it, but I did add a coat of clear coat to protect that paint. And then I wanted to do a little pop or surprise that you would see on the side of the drawers whenever you open them. So I have this sweet little bird stencil that I filled with Dixie Belle's gold gilding wax. Here you can actually see some of the chips in the veneer, and all the drawers were this way. So I would have to have done a lot of veneer repair to keep the drawers the wood stain look. So I opted to fill them with Bondo, and I sanded that smooth, and it came back with that primer and rolled on 2 coats of primer on the drawer fronts and the body of the dresser. Now this French Provincial style definitely has some curves and details to it. So I use a little hand brush to fill in where my roller wouldn't reach very well. And then I went back over those areas with a roller very lightly. After the primer was dry, it was time to start adding my color. This is a beautiful pine green shade of paint. I like that it's not too dark, it's not too light, it's just right in the middle. And I roll on 3 coats of this, allowing it to dry in between each coat. I don't have it recorded or showed though. I do lightly sand in between each coat of primer, each coat of paint, each coat of top coat as well. Just since I'm doing this by hand and not spraying, I don't want to have any rolling texture or brush mark strokes. And sanding lightly in between each layer does help diminish that. When the paint was dry, I did go ahead and roll on a coat of the clear coat for protection before moving on to the next step.
She grew up to be quite beautiful and headstrong.
I ordered this redesign with Prima Transfer and it is called Harvest Hues. I ordered this transfer from the Make a Daughter shop on Etsy. It's where I order the majority of my furniture decoupage papers and transfers. I will have a link in the description for this transfer as well as all the other products that I use to make this furniture flip happen. When I work with transfers, I like to check for placement first, make sure that I'm getting it centered up, and then kind of work through the transfer in sections, rubbing it on. Now, this one was a little challenging to do just because it's the French Provincial style. So there is some curve to the front of these drawers. So I did have to kind of work and fight with that a little bit, but I was able to get it on. So my friend gave me decorating freedom to do whatever I wanted to with her piece of furniture. So I knew I was going to use this transfer. So the paint colors, the green on the outside and then that reddish orange on the side of the drawers. That's why I went with the color choices that I did because those colors are in this transfer. After you get your transfer on, you do want to go back over it with a piece of plastic and work out any wrinkles or air bubbles that may have gotten in during the application process. Then you do have to use a razor blade to cut in between the drawers so you can slide those in and out again.
There wasn't a clock. I think I had surgery yesterday.
I then applied 2 more coats of the top coat, making sure that I went over the transfer as well so it's nice and sealed and protected. Now for the hardware, they were brought to me in a bag that had been in strippers, so they were wet and I forgot about them and they got super rusty after sitting there for 3 weeks. So I boiled them in some vinegar and water and then used a little bit of good old fashioned elbow grease I started with just some steel wool scrubbing, but there's so many details on these French Provincial handles that I went and got one of my wire brushes and that really seemed to do the job. And the difference between them is so crazy. I will never get over the shock of that. Now, since I did have some of the gold gilding wax on the sides of the drawers, I kind of wanted all the gold to match, so I added this gold gilding wax to the handles. You can see it changes the color just a little bit. And I put the handles back on the piece, and when I took a step back, I just felt like, because I kind of always feel like this, that it just needed a little bit more gold. Now it doesn't need much, so I didn't go super crazy and add gold all over the place, but like I can do sometimes. I just added a little bit of the gold here and there, and then after that, this piece was finished.
She was sorry she hadn't paid more attention to her own mother.
Here's a quick reminder of the absolute nightmare piece of furniture that we started with, and then what it looks like now. I just love the warmth that this piece has now, from the dark walnut stain to the green and the reddish orange shades that I picked. And then the transfer as well. They're just all warm and inviting colors. My client absolutely loved how her furniture piece turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed this furniture flip. If you did, I'm going to pop up a few more videos that I think that you might also like. That's all I have for you today. Until next time.